everybody, we're back. I'm sorry that it's been so long since the last video. The truth is that we had not anticipated becoming as busy as we've become. Our business has kind of exploded, not in a bad way, in a wonderful, beyond our imagination way. And so since we last saw each other through this camera lens, my wife and I have been to China, we've been to Korea, we've been to Japan. We're getting ready to leave in another 5 days or something like that. A week for the U.S. Next week's meeting's got to be on Tuesday if we're going to have it, because we have to leave on Wednesday. Okay,
Yeah.
We'll be in the U.S. for 20 days or something like that. When we come back, we'll be going back to China. Then we'll be going to London for a little bit. And so, so things could be hit or miss for a while we kind of get some of these very important milestones set with our business. But, you know, we've worked really, really hard to have the success that we're experiencing now, and we have certain responsibilities as the principals we got to go take care of. So it's not going to be any easier on us than it is on anybody else. I mean, I know we all, you know, we're kind of glued together here. Yeah. And so it's not as though we can't survive on the basis of what this is, okay? But so I might be doing something from the road, maybe. I don't know. It depends on how focused we are with the amount of time that we actually have access to. But you got to pull it together, and the real key to do that, though, is daimoku.
Yes.
And it's just like it's like sling. Tell Mr. Lee. I mean, Mr. Lee, I know you're watching, bro. You and I know each other from past life somewhere. I mean, some past lives maybe. So you're my good friend. So thank you for mentioning the 8 wins, so that I don't get carried away by prosperity or fame, which is 2 of them. Our product is doing very well, and I will get into a full discussion about the 8 winds, which you call Dharma realms. Don't forget, in Nichiren Buddhism, we consider the Dharma realm this realm of the 9 worlds, okay? The reality as it exists right now. And the thing that we talk every week about, without calling it the 8 winds, is the 8 winds. It's the functions in life that either that impede you, either through a positive process of pulling your focus away, or a negative process that discourages you. Either way, in other words, both prosperity and difficulty are equally challenging to the process of the path of Buddhahood. Okay? So don't be swayed by any of that is really the bottom line in terms of the 8 winds, but there's a Gosho and a whole different thing that I'll go into to answer your question more completely, Mr. Lee, but thank you for that question, and I hope that will suffice as a quick answer. When we left last time, we were actually on page 90, and I left at the mentor-disciple relationship is the essence of the Lotus Sutra.
Yes.
And during the course of being in Japan, my whole family, we got to visit in Shinjuku, the international headquarters for the Soka Gakkai. And nicest people you ever want to meet. They were very, very open. I felt a little timid ultimately acknowledging to them that I don't practice with the organization. They go, who cares? No problem. Dude, you've got faith, and I can tell. So that's all they cared about. And in that process, though, I had like almost a religious experience. First of all, I wasn't sure we were even going to be able to make it, because the rain had kind of like kept our, we were traversing where we were going. We were really kind of going by a group on foot until we got to a train station or something like that. We had already planned doing a lot of sightseeing in different spots. We hadn't gotten to all the places that Mei Ling had put in so much work in trying to figure out and so forth. But suddenly on the last day that we could do it, my wife says, well, we got to go to SGI headquarters. I'm going like, cool, okay, I don't have to be the one to sit there and ask everybody to do something nobody else wants to do but me. So we went there in the rain. We had to go through difficulties in order to get there. we got there on a Sunday, so that there was nobody else other than staff there. And so as you walk in, there's a big sort of not a formal auditorium or lecture area, but that is actually what you can see on the first floor, is that it goes all the way back to the wall. And I looked over and I saw this bust of someone, because again, I don't have any idea, I don't have any pictures of the interior that I've already got presupposed in my mind. And then my son suddenly, and I'll probably start crying, that's why I wasn't really going to do this on camera. But you know, my son suddenly says, "Isn't that the guy that was in prison?" And yeah, thank you. Go ahead and give it to me, because you know I'm not going to be able to deal with this. And I because I hadn't really noticed it. It was kind of dark. It was a darker room. It was at the very front of that room as it looked out. And I looked over and I went, "Oh my God, that's President Toda." So there's this big bust of President Toda. And just like right now, I tried to start going into an explanation with my kids, all 6 of my kids. This was their first really big SG. I mean, they don't know. They know Dad is a chanter. You know, they know about Nichiren Daishonin, but they really haven't been indoctrinated into SGI activities or youth, you know, whatever. So it turns out my daughter's probably going to go to Soka University now. They were freaked out by how her Japanese is evidently fluent. They thought she was Japanese. So, but in trying to talk about President Toda, I just couldn't really get the words out. I'm just talking to my kids, for Christ's sake, and I'm crying like a baby, because all I could think about was all the happiness of my life. Okay. And how, in essence, really for me, you know, I've already revealed a lot about my life. Basically started at the age of 19. Now, I've never gone into who I really am or who I was when I was 19 years old. But a lot of people, I mean, I could have been put in prison, okay, for some of the stuff that I was doing, as many of the people my age were involved in those kinds of things. Again, it was a different era, but the bottom line is that what I'm trying to express is, again, I just kept becoming overwhelmed with the truth that the efforts of a single person, could have that effect that I had actually experienced, and my life is revolutionized. I mean, I live, like I said in that video from a year and a half ago, but I live on a tropical island. I live with the best people I've ever known, on the most peaceful place I've ever known. You know, I have a wonderful relationship with my wife. I have wonderful children. I have wonderful relationships with everybody knows. My business is prospering beyond anything we could have ever had any comprehension of. You know, everything that's promised when you go to that first meeting has happened in my life, okay? And it happened primarily because people had the strength and the courage to stand up for what's right and to speak out. And it just so happened that I had read before we went what the daily guidance was from All My Friends, which is that great UK thing that I've told you about. I should share it with everybody on video. You can get on a daily basis encouragement. But the whole encouragement for that day, which was for Saturday, even though we were going Sunday, it was published for that Sunday, was about President Keita saying, you know, we must stand up. We must speak out. We must tell the truth. Okay? And really, I need to remind everybody that, you know, there's been a comment that's been left on the page of that really bothers me, by a person that really bothers me, but I can't seem to get rid of it. And he talks about this great disgrace about the split between the Soka Gakkai and Nichiren Shoshu. Okay? And I checked out the stats while I was there. You know what Nichiren Shoshu's worldwide membership is down to? Like less than 600,000 people. okay, or 600,000 households, however they want to calculate it. But, you know, there are, if you don't sustain practice, how can you sustain faith?
Right.
Yes.
And how can you gain faith by listening to someone without taking action? And you can never, ever gain any of that by allowing some other process to try and do it for you. Okay? So, as much as I'm not doing Soka Gakkai activities, I am functioning with the Soka Gakkai because I know a lot of people that are watching these videos are people that practice with SGI. And so I just wanted to share again, before we start reading, that when Daisaku Ikeda says what he says, or when you hear people talk about Daisaku Ikeda in a negative way, really, 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 they just have compassion for them because they're creating such slander and such poison for the future of their lives, to lack the respect for what Daisaku Ikeda has done. I'm reading, everything I'm reading to you is the truth as it relates to the true heritage. Okay? That I can trust you because this is the way I was taught it, this is the way I did it, and this is the result I have in my life. And you can all judge my life any way you want to with whatever lens you have. Okay? But there's nothing that he says here that I can't put myself in first person to understand. Okay? When you understand you're the Buddha, you are the Buddha. Okay? And there is no separation between Buddhas. They all share in the same fortune, they all share in the same wisdom. And that wisdom is that there's no limitation to the power of their life. And there's no limitation to the responsibility of their own for their life. There's no circumstance that's adding to consternation or benefit in their life. If there's something about your life that isn't the way you want it to be, or that you don't understand, or you think that's unfair, it's there for a reason, and you put it there for that reason. Okay? So it won't become clear if you can't take responsibility for yourself. And that's all I read Daisaku Ikeda say. He never embellishes himself other than, I'm a badass and you are too. I say the same thing. What's wrong with that? It's the truth. If you can pull off doing what he's talking about, you are a badass. There's nothing wrong with qualifying that. Okay? You can back it up, you can back it up. How do you back it up? The 8 winds never affect you. Okay? That's really the point. The 8 winds never are able to defeat you. They're never able to pull you away from the mission that you signed up for, that you took a vow to uphold. That's not happy talk. That's reality according to Nichiren Daishonin. If you don't believe reality according to Nichiren Daishonin, why are you stroking yourself and wasting your time doing something that's not going to lead you to anything other than great slander? Be very careful about presupposing what you think you know when you don't know it. Okay? And all I read Daisaku Ikeda talk about is the truth. And how do I know it's the truth? Is it the truth because I read Daisaku Ikeda say it? No, I'm very fortunate. I didn't have to have Daisaku Ikeda say it, and I'm listening to Daisaku. I experienced it myself. Okay? So I encourage you to try and embrace it on the same basis. For that reason, rather than starting where we left off on page 90, I want to take you back to page 86 to the top, and I'm going to try and read through quickly, and I'm going to get through everything tonight, even though it's already 8:21. All right? So we're at the top of page 86, where it says, the first full sentence, embracing the Lotus Sutra specifically means internalizing the great vow of the mentor who has dedicated his life as a votary of the Lotus Sutra, and even in times of adversity, maintaining the same resolute and selfless faith as the mentor. Okay, the mentor is Nichiren. And anybody that can do what is contained in that paragraph makes them a mentor as well. So if that refers to Daisaku Ikeda, it refers to Daisaku Ikeda because of the relationship he has with the Gohonzon and the vow that he has taken as a disciple of the original teacher. It's no different than when I do it or than when anyone else does it. It's the same exact thing. Okay? He's qualifying it now out loud so that you don't have to worry about understanding it in any other context than the one that pertains to your own life. Because this is a very personal statement. Embracing the Lotus Sutra specifically means internalizing the great vow. That means it's not happy talk of the mentor who has dedicated his life as a votary of the Lotus Sutra, and even in times of adversity, maintaining the same resolute and selfless faith as the mentor. In other words, a person of pure gold is another name for a person of selfless dedication to the law. Okay? So now what's that selfless dedication to the law? It's propagating it as a Buddha in your present form. Okay? It's not about how many meetings you're going to. This is an internalizing issue. Okay? This isn't about a calendar of events circumstance, right? Such people are to be exalted, as Nichiren indicates. If the law that one embraces is supreme, then the person who embraces it must accordingly be foremost among all others. Those who base themselves on the highest principles or truth will not be deceived by surface phenomena or swayed by anything. They'll understand what's going on with Daisaku Ikeda and all of the process that's going on with the Soka philosophy. Won't have any question about why. They are always able to discern the underlying essence. By contrast, foolish people who lack solid guiding principles will always be confused and readily defeated by hardships or obstacles. They base themselves on their own foolish minds because they're not locked into a mentor-disciple relationship. That's the whole key. Without a teacher, what else have you got to rely on besides your own foolish mind? Okay? And the arrogance that makes you think that that foolish mind's capable of perceiving the truth without any assistance. Sairenbo most certainly had a deep recognition that the Lotus Sutra was the Buddha's highest teaching. Moreover, his unwavering resolve and readiness to follow Nichiren made him a disciple of pure gold. Sairenbo was profoundly inspired on Sado by witnessing a true votary who practiced the Lotus Sutra, the King of Sutras, in exact accord with its teaching and spirit, and strove selflessly to lead all people to enlightenment. This is expressed in Sairenbo's own words, which Nichiren shares. In your letter, you mentioned that you became a disciple of mine and pledged to follow me at the beginning of the second month, and from now on, though you may not measure up to others, you would be most pleased and honored if I would continue to count you among my disciples. Sairenbo, no doubt, immediately and correctly grasped that advancing together with the true votary of the Lotus Sutra is the essence and ultimate meaning of embracing the Lotus Sutra. That is probably why he unhesitatingly chose the course of enduring persecution together with Nichiren. So did you understand what that just said? Okay, so if you're actually a disciple of the original teacher, you're willing to go through what he went through. And you anticipate and expect you will in some form. Okay? Nichiren's next site, so don't plan on not having difficulties. Good luck with that. Nichiren next cites two passages from the Former Affairs of the Bodhisattva Medicine King chapter of the Lotus Sutra. This is to illustrate the true life state of those who embrace the Lotus Sutra. The first passage concerns the Lotus Sutra, or the law, which they embrace. Just as among all the mountains Mount Sumeru is foremost, so this Lotus Sutra is likewise. Just as Mount Sumeru towers at the center of the world, so the Lotus Sutra is the supreme and unsurpassed law. The second passage concerns the indomitable state of life attained by those who embrace the law. Indomitable, what's that mean? What's that word indomitable mean? It means cannot be defeated. Okay? The second passage concerns the indomitable, the undefeatable state of life attained by those who embrace the law. The good fortune you gain thereby, through that kind of mind, through those actions, through that devotion, cannot be burned by fire or washed away by water. Because those who embrace the mystic law can bring forth the infinite power of Buddhahood within their lives. They can triumph over all without being defeated by hardship or suffering. They use it to validate and show the power of the law and the practice. To embrace the Lotus Sutra is to feel deep joy in living as a person of wisdom, a person of pure gold. Such vibrant pride and self-worth gives rise to the strength, courage, and wisdom to endure and overcome all obstacles as a bodhisattva of the earth. On the middle of page 87, the eternal karmic ties of mentor and disciple. Nichiren Daishonin also tells Sairenbo of the profound karmic ties they share as mentor and disciple. It must be ties of karma from the distant past that have destined you to become my disciple at a time like this. Nichiren indicates that this mysterious bond can perhaps only be fathomed, can only be understood by the Buddhist Shakyamuni and many treasures, because it's that deep, it's that profound. Further, he explains that the profound karmic ties shared by mentor and disciple who uphold the Lotus Sutra are an indisputable truth. Citing a passage from the parable of the Phantom City chapter, those persons who had heard the law dwelled here and there in various Buddha lands, constantly reborn in the company with their teachers. This passage reveals the depth of the mentor-disciple bond. To give a brief explanation of its meaning, since the distant time of major world system dust particle kalpas in the past, Shakyamuni's voice-hearer disciples had constantly been born in various lands with Shakyamuni as their mentor and carried out bodhisattva practice together, because that's the relationship between those individuals and Shakyamuni. Do understand, Shakyamuni doesn't have a relationship in Mappo. His disciples were born with him in Shoho and Zoho and Shoho, or Shoho and Zoho, the former and the middle day. The important point here is that Shakyamuni's voice-hearer disciples in the Lotus Sutra were actually bodhisattvas who had undertaken bodhisattva practice in past lifetimes. Through these words of the Buddha, the voice-hearers remember that they originally possessed the life state of bodhisattvas. Okay? That's as high as they were shooting. The Lotus Sutra reveals that since the immeasurable past, the voice-hearers have possessed the wish that we have had deep in our hearts from the start. That is, the wish to obtain supreme enlightenment and free all living beings from suffering. Therefore, the voice-hearers, by recalling their great wish from the distant past, discover and awaken to their identity as living beings who have carried out the same bodhisattva practice as their teacher Shakyamuni. The passage indeed describes the eternal relationship of mentor and disciple who strive together to realize the most profound aspiration of human beings and of all life, and the enlightenment and happiness of both self and others. A true mentor in Buddhism is one who enables us to remember this aspiration. That's the true mentor, trying to bring you back to the point that you say, at the end of Gongyo, you say these same words each time. True disciples, meanwhile, are ones who follow the mentor's teaching, who never forget that this most profound aspiration is in fact their own, and who, convinced from the bottom of their hearts that this is so, launch into action in accord with the mentor's instruction. He's talking about Nichiren. All right? The most profound mentor-disciple relationship is that of mentor and disciple who struggle together for Kosen Rufu. Their lives are linked on the deepest level. The eternal world of Buddhahood exists in the depths of their lives. Both mentor and disciple then dwell in the immense life state of the palace of the ninth consciousness, the unchanging reality that reigns over all of life's functions, which we'll get into before we stop talking tonight. Those persons who had heard the law dwelled here and there in various Buddha lands, constantly reborn in company with their teachers, on page 89. In the third memorial second anniversary in November 1946 for his mentor, Tensaburo Makaguchi, second Soka Gakkai president Josei Toda said, "In your vast and boundless compassion, you let me accompany you even to prison. As a result, I could read with my entire being the passage from the Lotus Sutra. Those persons who had heard the law dwelled here and there in various Buddha lands, constantly reborn in company with their teachers. The benefit of this was coming to know my former existence as a bodhisattva of the earth, and to absorb with my very life even a small degree of the sutra's meaning. Could there be any greater happiness than this? Rocks for gold, filth for rice. This captures the essence of the mentor-disciple relationship in Buddhism. In those early days of our organization, there were many other Soka Gakkai leaders who proclaimed to be disciples of President Makaguchi. But once the wartime persecution of the Soka Gakkai affected them personally and led to their imprisonment, they did a complete turnaround and recanted their faith, showing gross ingratitude. There were even some who openly turned against President Makaguchi, cursing at the mentor to whom they were so deeply indebted. The human heart can be frightening. And don't forget, the lay organization that was growing and creating Nichiren Shoshu to go from the smallest school to ever presently going and becoming a larger and larger school. Those priesthood is who turned President Makaguchi in to the authorities for rejecting the Shinto talisman and remonstrating with them for it. Okay, so Daisaku Ikeda isn't the one that he initiated anything to do with the split with Nichiren Shoshu. Trust me. Okay? And the other point that I want to make very clear is the fact that if you get a real good objective look at religiosity in Japan, it's all about coin. Everywhere we were at, all those temples said that they could answer your prayers. Okay? That was no big deal. All right? Something that you could, to a Western person, that might be something new that they're hearing, but I guess almost all Buddhist sects promise prayer answering as part of the deal. Okay? And certainly all of them were essentially commercial enterprises. And now, Taisekaji is as well. So Taisekaji is open to tourism and everything else. Let's go ahead and everybody's on their way up to Minobu anyhow. Yeah, I know for a fact. I read it from Nichiren Shoshu. Okay, so when Nichiren Shoshu says open for tourism, I'm going to take their word for it. It's just that they're not in a place that there are a bunch of other temples around. Okay, but if you look at the geography, they're not that far away. Okay, so at any rate, be aware of that. Only Mr. Toda, President Makaguchi's true disciple, because he's willing to stay in jail until Makaguchi got out. He could have left early. All he had to do was say, the old man's crazy. All right? Only Mr. Toda, Mr. Makaguchi's true disciple, was unwavering in his awareness of the profound and noble bond of mentor and disciple, speaking with gratitude of President Makaguchi's vast and boundless compassion. This lofty mentor-disciple relationship is the vital spirit of the Soka Gakkai. If this spirit lives on, our movement will continue to develop eternally. The mentor-disciple spirit of the first three presidents is key to securing the foundations of the Kosen Rufu movement for the future. And again, he's not patting himself on the back. He's saying, we lived it. We walked the walk. We didn't just talk the talk. Okay? I've gone through just as much shit as Toda did. I may not have gone to prison, but I did go to jail over the position I took in Kansai. All right? Who else has gone to jail for the sake of the teaching? Nobody. Okay? And who turned on President Ikeda more than anybody else when the split happened? Members of the Soka Gakkai. Okay? Leaders of the Soka Gakkai that decided to go grab a position with the temple. Okay? Big time. Big time. That's why he lost confidence in George M. Williams in the United States. George M. Williams had to think about it before he said, I'm with you. Okay? So this is nothing new. This is history repeating itself from 12th century Japan. All you got to do is take a look at what Nichiren went through. That's exactly what all the correct teachers go through. All right? Mr. Toda states that by going to prison with his mentor, he was able to realize his former existence as a bodhisattva of the earth and the sutra's meaning. And because of that, he could write the book that turned me onto it. Okay, that's why I can't talk about him without crying. He found the key in the sutra passage concerning being reborn in lifetime after lifetime with one's mentor. Both mentor and disciple dedicate their lives eternally to bodhisattva practice. This point is crucial to understanding the Lotus Sutra's essence. Once in a lecture open to all members, President Toda explained, when I said I'm going to go and be reborn in the country of Japan when it's in a state of ruin, why don't you all come with me? You all replied, okay, let's go. Yes, why not? And as a result, we all appeared in this world. The sutra says that wherever they may be, practitioners of the sutra are sure to be born together with their mentor in various Buddha lands. This is a certainty, not a lie. It means that mentor and disciple are always born together. In light of these words of Nichiren, I feel tremendous gratitude to all of you. We were born together in this world as a result of a promise we made in the past. In another writing, Nichiren Daishonin says, I wonder if you and I have not been pledged to each other as teacher and disciple from countless kalpas in the past. From Reply to Sarinpo. Mentor and disciple share karmic ties that extend over past, present, and future. When we strive with all our might for Kosen Rufu, we can sense this profound connection, and we don't feel like we're being mind controlled by somebody that's greater than us. This isn't an imposition. This is something we grab onto. This is something we seek. Okay? For those that doesn't naturally come forth from, they have to develop it on their own, or they miss the point completely. And that's why it's got to be conveyed correctly. You can't put this out there like you've got to be a Daisaku Ikeda disciple. Okay? Being a disciple of Daisaku Ikeda is a personal decision. It's more than words. It's based on action. It's based on a mindset. It's based on taking a vow. You can't impose that on other people. All right? So that does happen sometimes. That it becomes a confused point, okay, within the lay organization. Who are we talking about when we talk about mentor and disciple? Mentor and disciple. Mentor is whoever can inspire you to be like Nichiren. Mentor is whoever can inspire you to have the same mind as Nichiren. The original mentor is Nichiren. All other mentors are disciples leading others to that truth. Okay? And if you want to be like Mike, be like Mike. You know what I'm talking about, like Michael Jordan, right? Right. It is the first three presidents of the Soka Gakkai who have revived in the present age an active and engaged mentor-disciple spirit, the essence of Nichiren Buddhism. It's just the truth. They're not bragging. He's not bragging in saying that. It would be no exaggeration to say that were it not for the appearance of the Soka Gakkai, the spirit of mentor and disciple of the Lotus Sutra and Nichiren Buddhism would have all but disappeared. Now we're back where we were 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago, however long ago that was. Middle of page 90. So why is the mentor-disciple relationship valued so highly in Buddhism? Well, maybe it isn't in all of Buddhism, but it certainly is within the Buddhism that we practice, the Buddhism as practiced in the Soka philosophy, right? By the way, we are a new religion, the Soka Gakkai. You understand that? Everybody understands that, right? Okay, so why is the mentor-disciple relationship valued so highly in Buddhism? Let me reconfirm the Buddhist significance of this relationship. Why it's important. In general terms, a mentor is someone who teaches one enhanced skills or technical expertise, deeper knowledge, a loftier way of life, a more fulfilling state of mind, and so forth. So it's a little bit deeper kind of a personal level than just a teacher. Do you understand? It's not just the distribution of words and knowledge. It's actually grabbing your character and helping you form who you really are. People look up to someone as a mentor when that person helps them in some way to improve or develop themselves. That's why I called my mentors out at that meeting. I talked about, Mr. Matsuoka and Mr. Osaki and all the other people that I mentioned that night. In the Buddhist teaching of the Lotus Sutra, Lloyd Sewell, I'm not forgetting you, my brother. In the Buddhist teaching of the Lotus Sutra, the teacher Shakyamuni, based on his awakening to the law, strove together with his disciples to enable them to achieve their highest potential as human beings. This law was none other than the mystic law, which the Buddhist disciples could not perceive on their own. Their awareness was clouded by fundamental darkness, and they had no conception of the law. Therefore, even if they were given theoretical explanations of the law or told to practice to overcome sufferings, the life state of Buddhahood could not be conveyed to them through such words alone. Rather, it was through being inspired by coming into contact with the Buddha's character, along with these words of instruction, that they awakened to the law within their lives. This is how the law was communicated to them. And again, when we talk about Shakyamuni, who taught the law is Shakyamuni. Says it in the Lotus Sutra.
Oh, it's a Christian.
If you're not listening to what I'm saying, why are you sitting here? To be honest with you. Okay.
She's too fast.
Who taught Shakyamuni?
The Lord Self.
Huh?
The Lord Self.
No. No way. No way. The law doesn't teach. The law itself does not teach anybody except the original teacher. The original teacher is that's why I always refer to it the original teacher, the original disciples. Okay. Everything else is based on that original mentor and everybody else's disciple of a mentor-disciple relationship. That's why Daisaku Ikeda is calling all this out. If you think that you're going to chant Daimoku in front of the Gohonzon and attain Buddhahood, bullshit! Nowhere are you going to find that. Doesn't say that anywhere. No practice in that. No mercy for others in that. That's seeking Buddhahood and wisdom only for yourself in that. Nothing there that's going to take you to the 10th world. Theoretically, you might think you have it, but that's not the reality of the truth of it. The truth of it is when you think of yourself as the Buddha and everything that goes along with that. Right? So, who taught Shakyamuni? His dad! Great Universal Wisdom Excellence. That's who preached the Lotus Sutra. He was the 16th son of Great Universal Wisdom Excellence, wasn't he? Yes, Amita's supposed to be one of his brothers. I mean, read the Lotus Sutra. We've already read the Lotus Sutra. Okay? We've studied this enough. You should know that. If you don't, let me remind you. Shakyamuni wasn't sitting there saying stuff that he had come to the conclusion and understood himself from the very beginning. He says, this is a sutra that I learned from my dad. Read the Parable of Phantom City chapter. Okay, so this is how the law was communicated to them, those disciples of Shakyamuni Buddha who appear in the former and the middle day. Now, did the disciples of Shakyamuni appear in the latter day? No. That's the whole point. Now we have a different mentor and a different mentor-disciple relationship. And this is continuing on page 90. And this is why the mentor-disciple relationship holds so much importance in Buddhism. This is why, because this is the whole essence of how everything works if you're going to make it to attaining Buddhahood in your present form. The law is conveyed through the life-to-life bonds. Why are you born lifetime after lifetime in various Buddha lands? The teacher and the disciple. It's pretty logical. What's the answer?
Karma.
Yeah, of course, it must be karmic ties from the distant past that have been But why? Because this Buddhahood, this 10th world, isn't from words. It's not from concepts. It's not from being educated in a curriculum. It's a life-to-life bond. You and I have a life-to-life bond. That's why I can give you shit and not worry about whether or not you're so pissed off you never speak to me again. Okay? That's my mercy to you. That's the way my mentors talk to me. They didn't say, Tom, are you going to be pissed off if I tell you the truth? If so, then maybe we should talk about this another time. No. Teacher and disciple are such that the teacher's mercy always utilizes, where did that teacher's wisdom come from? Reading a bunch of shit? No.
So
Action. Usually pain and suffering. They're trying to encourage the people that they teach the things that they don't have to suffer if they'll only grasp and take their word for it. But they got to do what the mentor tells them that they got to do in order to achieve that. It's not about knowing what the mentor, you think knowing what the mentor knows is we could all just read a book. We're done. Doesn't work that way. The law is conveyed through the life-to-life bonds of the mentor-disciple relationship. Based on this law, it is possible for us to achieve our human revolution. Based on this, we're able to progress individually as the individual. We don't attain Buddhahood because of them. We attain Buddhahood because of us. But the relationship we have with them is the bridge, the karmic bridge we created for ourselves to have the level of fortune, to have a teacher that can put us on that path so that we can actually do that in a single lifetime. That's the point. I watched thousands of freaking people walking around like tourists in Japan. None of them were going to attain Buddhahood on the basis of what I saw. Really, I'm not being judgmental. I'm using my own experience to make that qualification. They certainly were not expressing it. That isn't where their heads were in any of the temples. It was about, what are you going to buy at the stores outside? Well, my family owns all the real estate. Okay? Based on this law, it is possible for us to achieve our human revolution. This also explains why Nichiren Daishonin refers to the deep mentor-disciple bond between himself and Sairinpo in this writing on the transmission of the heritage of the ultima of life and death. Why? In order to leave the legacy of this writing for us to be able to read and perceive it now on the basis that he perceived it. It follows that Buddhism does not set forth the mentor as a mystical or transcendent superhuman being. So if you call Daisaku Ikeda the mentor and you put him up on a pedestal and you consider him some sort of otherworldly, one-of-a-kind dude, you are not reading what he's writing that I'm reading to you. You're listening to other people's misconceptions and parroting them. This is not what Daisaku Ikeda teaches anywhere. And that's why we do these videos. So that I can read to you what he actually says versus the comments that I have to live with having made about his behavior. Totally full of shit. It follows that Buddhism does not set forth the mentor as a mystical or transcendent superhuman being. Nichiren states, outside of the attainment of Buddhahood, that's all there is. There is no secret. There's no transcendental powers beyond that. Right? We read that in the orally transmitted teachings as well, right? That's point 4 on chapter 16. As this passage suggests, the supreme and only mystery in Buddhism is the ability of human beings to attain Buddhahood in their present form. Not happy talk Buddhahood, real Buddhahood. Moreover, the secret and transcendental powers for attaining Buddhahood are something that can be manifested in the lives of all people in a single moment of life. What then were the disciples to do after their teacher Shakyamuni Buddha had passed away? Did it mean that without the Buddha there to teach the law through his own example, Buddhism could not be transmitted in a true sense? The Lotus Sutra directly addresses these questions. The sutra teaches that the core of Shakyamuni's being is nothing other than the vow of the Buddha. What is the significance of Shakyamuni, Lord of Teachings? His behavior as a human being, Nichiren says. His behavior as a human being, as a Buddha in his present form, is what he's saying. He's taken the vow. He's walking the walk. He's not talking the talk alone. Shakyamuni explains, at the start I took a vow, hoping to make all persons equal to me without any distinction between us. I talk about that all the time, right? You're just trying to make everybody equal to yourself. That is, the vow to enable all people to attain the same state of enlightenment as he had, as you have, if you're the Buddha in your present form, right? In the theoretical teaching, the first 14 chapters of the Lotus Sutra, the voice hearers awaken to the fact that they too have originally dedicated their lives to the same great vow as the Buddha. This clarifies that Shakyamuni and his voice hearer disciples are committed to the same fundamental wish. The essential teaching, the last 14 chapters of the sutra, reveals the true identity of Shakyamuni as the Buddha who has continued to preach the law, teaching and converting living beings in the Sahe world based on this vow, ever since attaining enlightenment in the inconceivably distant past. This is the Buddha of actual attainment in the remote past, expounded in Lifespan chapter. But that's not Kuan, right? In addition, the essential teaching clarifies that the bodhisattvas who share the mentor's commitment, those who after the Buddha's passing pledge to carry out the Buddha's vow and devote themselves to the Buddha's work of leading all people to happiness, are the bodhisattvas of the earth, who Nichiren has declared are his disciples. The Lotus Sutra from the beginning to end teaches the oneness or shared commitment of mentor and disciple. Looking over the history of Buddhism, the deification of Shakyamuni, which I saw plenty of, okay, began when his disciples forgot to strive with the same commitment he had. They wanted to just look at an iconic person that had done it and just settle for, can you answer my prayer for me? Not realizing they answered their own prayers. If Shakyamuni had attained enlightenment in the remote past, who attained enlightenment in the remote past, is turned into a transcendent, superhuman being, then the mentor-disciple relationship cannot function. The point is that when the Buddha's disciples fail to emulate his spirit and conduct, being Buddhas in their present form, the Buddha merely becomes an object of veneration or worship. Becomes what it is not. The Buddha, therefore, can no longer serve as a model for others' human revolutions, to take them along that path that pulls them over the line, makes them their Buddha, the Buddha in their present form. The bottom of page 93, first column. The Lotus Sutra reveals that a vow lies at the core of Shakyamuni Buddha's character. It further clarifies that the law is transmitted to disciples who make the vow their own and strive in the same spirit. This paves the way for conveying the life state of the Buddha to living beings even in the age after his passing. That's the behavior of Josei Toda, and Daisaku Ikeda has nothing more than emulated that. That was President Toda's spirit. You know it. I read it to you. Especially important in achieving the great vow for Kosen Rufu is the willingness to take action without begrudging one's life. Like being tired when you do a study meeting on a Wednesday after you've had 2 weeks with your kids all over Japan. The Lifespan chapter of the Lotus Sutra says that even after his passing, Shakyamuni will appear where there are practitioners striving in faith with the spirit of single-mindedly desiring to see the Buddha, not hesitating, even if it costs them their life. So whenever there's someone that expresses a desire, you must meet the call, regardless of the circumstance. Okay? And that's not anything being put upon you. That's something that gives you great joy. That's the vow you took. Even after Shakyamuni's death, the life state of the Buddha can be conveyed to those who had taken action based on the great vow for Kosen Rufu and the spirit of selfless dedication, which constitute the core of the Buddha's life. Everybody understood that? Okay, so what did that just say? You're not going to get through this casually. Even after Shakyamuni's death, the life state of the Buddha can be conveyed to those who take action based on the great vow for making everyone equal to themselves, which is the vow for Kosen Rufu, and the spirit of selfless dedication, which constitute the core of the Buddha's life, being exactly like him in word, thought, and deed. Nichiren set forth Nam-myoho Renge-kyo as the means for manifesting our innate Buddhahood. He revealed that the great vow for Kosen Rufu and selfless dedication are the key to Buddhist practice in the evil age of the latter day. By doing so, he secured the transmission of the heritage for attaining Buddhahood. Everything rests on the fundamental power inherent in the mentor-disciple relationship. Okay? Everything. Nichiren's true disciple and direct successor, Nikko Shonin, says, in the teaching of Nichiren, one attains Buddhahood by correctly following the path of mentor and disciple. If one veers from the path of mentor and disciple, then even if one upholds the Lotus Sutra, one will fall into the hell of incessant suffering. Now, who said that? It just says who said it. You can go back a page. Who just said that? You're not paying attention at all. Busted twice.
Nikko Shonin.
Nikko Shonin. Who was Nikko Shonin?
Nichiren's disciple.
Nichiren's direct disciple.
Yeah.
And the founder of Nichiren Shoshu.
Yeah.
Okay, the founder of the Taisekuji Temple.
Yes.
Okay,
Oh.
all right. He's the one that says, can't do it without the mentor-disciple relationship. So everybody that thinks that this is being pulled out of the air by Daisaku Ikeda in some bid to do mind control on a mass, his cult, his sect. Now we call ourselves the Soka philosophy. We've had to register as a new religion. Goddamn right it's a new religion. Let me tell you, it is a new religion. No one's ever practiced like this except the Soka Gakkai. Okay? And when I hear people give President Ikeda shit because he's just saying what Nikko Shonin said, makes me go like, we all need to study more, don't we? All right? In the present age, it is the first 3 Soka Gakkai presidents who are awakened to the great vow for Kosen Rufu. Call it like it is. That's a fact. I challenge you, show me historically. Show me since World War II, since 1935 or so when this all started. Tell me who else did this then. If they're taking the statement and saying we're the only ones that did it, I'm saying from my research, and I've done critical research, not just, group speak research, they're the only ones. All right? That's why this teaching is being passed on to us, because they're going to be gone soon. The last one's in his 90s. And he's calling out to each one of you directly. He's calling out to you and you and you and you and you. And he's saying, you do what I did and take on your own crew and make this happen. The foundation is there for you to accomplish it. There's nothing more to know to be able to accomplish it. All you got is do what you got to do. In the present age, it is the first 3 Soka Gakkai presidents who awakened to the great vow for Kosen Rufu. That's what they did. They all became disciples of Nichiren. They all became of the same mind as Nichiren, the vow of the Buddha, and have striven with the spirit of not begrudging their lives. And every single one of them did that. As the disciple of Mr. Makaguchi, as the disciple of Mr. Makaguchi and Mr. Toda, I have won in successive, momentous struggles against the 3 powerful enemies. And the dude has pulled that off, period. No matter what your opinion. He has, when we're all in front of that picture, that's what that is. I have created a history of absolute victory as a disciple, he says. That's why I'm qualified to be a mentor. I can proudly report to Mr. Toda that I have won. On all fronts, I have no regrets whatsoever. Mr. Makaguchi and Mr. Toda and me, through the actions of its first 3 presidents, the Soka Gakkai has forged the path of shared commitment of mentor and disciple, the essence of Buddhism. Because the mentors and disciples of Soka have been victorious, we have made worldwide Kosen Rufu, the decree of the Lotus Sutra, and the wish of Nichiren, a reality. If teacher and disciple are of different minds, writes Nichiren, they will never accomplish anything. But when mentor and disciple are united, they can achieve even the loftiest goals. The mentor-disciple bond is an unparalleled force for victory. I'm going to now skip backwards because this is important stuff to jump into real quick. Go back to, this is obviously from chapter 9. So go to page 84, and let's just read again the gray boxes. And I had all kinds of stuff to back up the gray boxes, and I've run out of time, but I at least want to read them out loud. All right? The Great Vow. Okay, so what is the Great Vow? Dude.
Kosen Rufu.
Yeah, the Great Vows, Kosen Rufu. What is the Great Vow? What is Kosen Rufu?
Propagation.
Widespread propagation, but widespread propagation of what?
The
Huh?
law.
Huh?
The law.
Yeah, okay, but what does that accomplish? Everybody
Human
knows about the law?
revolution.
Oh, I know about the law. I heard about the law. Somebody told me about the law.
Human revolution.
Yeah. Human revolution. Whose human revolution? The Great Vow. Whose human revolution is contained in the Great Vow?
Compassion.
Huh?
Whose?
That's compassion. Yeah. Whose human revolution? You got to the point. Because human revolution
Yeah.
means Buddha, right?
Yeah.
Human revolution means Buddha in your present form, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, whose human revolution is contained in you taking the Great Vow?
Buddha's us.
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 Yes.
Yours.
Us.
Yours.
Yeah.
This
Us.
is your personal vow
Mine.
to be the Buddha
Mine.
in your present form, because as the Buddha in your present form, you can make other people equal to yourself. If you make them equal to yourself without you being the Buddha in your present form, you're not doing them any big favors.
Right.
Okay? Understand. So the Great Vow is not some selfless thing for everybody else's sake. It's not being Jesus. I'm going to be the Buddha for the right reason. Okay? Because it's only the right reason that gets you there. That's the whole point of the Great Vow, is understanding what the right reason is. To make everyone equal to yourself as the Buddha. Okay? God, I can make a lot out of one word or 2 words, huh? Sorry about that. 84. Nichiren Daishonin in several letters emphasizes the importance of his disciples making a great vow. He says, see the Dragon Gate. The Lotus Sutra reads, we beg that the merit gained through these gifts may be spread far and wide to everyone, so that we and other living beings all together may attain the Buddha way. And that's from this translation. I won't read you from the Lotus Sutra. It says it on page 130. It's great, good stuff before and after. That, in essence, is the vow. To practice for oneself and others, to spread the Lotus Sutra throughout the world. It's important to note that what is often translated into English as vow can also be read as a pledge to fulfill a wish or desire. One who fully and consistently lives to fulfill this desire or vow, no matter what opposition might arise, is called a Buddha. Regarding this, SGI President Ikeda comments, I want to become happy and for everyone else to become happy too. This is the original mind, the pure wish functioning in the depths of life since time without beginning. Those who totally embrace this spirit are Buddhas. Because it is the Buddha's all-encompassing wish, it is the great vow. Now, so that you didn't think that that was some sort of an arrogant statement by him saying, what do you want? I wish for everybody to attain Buddhahood. Okay, do understand, this is 3, that where he says that, pardon me, how did this get screwed up? Where this says that is no.
The other one, maybe.
Page 177. Yeah. where it says that is this, but what he's here. Okay. This is what when we did the Lotus Sutra, okay, this is what that was condensed from. This is what he was talking about was the last 4 lines from Gongyo. Okay, at all times I think to myself, how can I cause living beings to gain entry into the unsurpassed way and quickly acquire the body of a Buddha? So, how often do you make this prayer?
Every day.
Every day. Okay, so when when this thing is written as though President Keita says, I want to become happy and for everyone else to become happy too. Frankly, I pray for the happiness of all mankind. Every day. So do you, consciously or unconsciously. It's better if you do it consciously. If you consider yourself the Buddha, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Because those last 4 lines mean something to you. You've taken the vow. You're serious as a heart attack about what your mission in life is. Okay? Everybody's with me?
Yes.
All right. So, he goes on. The vow of the disciple or of a bodhisattva is not an imposed obligation. That's what I said a minute ago. It is freely declared and joyously put into action. Because again, if it's not put into action, it's not really fulfilling the vow. It's just a bunch of happy talk. You're just like a Christian. You're anybody else. Nam can be read as dedication or devotion. The vow or wish to awaken Buddhahood in ourselves and others is something we renew every time we chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Bodhisattvas are said to make 4 universal vows: to save innumerable living beings, 2 to eradicate countless earthly desires, 3 to master immeasurable Buddhist teachings, and 4 to attain supreme perfect enlightenment. In writing the differences between Hinayana and Mahayana, Nichiren again says, again, the persons known as bodhisattvas in all cases take the so-called 4 universal vows, the first of which reads, living beings are numberless, I vow to save them. If this vow is not fulfilled, then it is impossible to fulfill the 4th vow, which reads, enlightenment is supreme, I vow to attain it. Okay? Gray box 1, down. Page 85. And I don't know what that is. This is from the 23rd chapter of the Lotus Sutra, the former affairs of the Bodhisattva Medicine King. This is a quote. It's just the quote from the sutra itself. This sutra can save all living beings. This sutra can cause all living beings to free themselves from suffering and anguish. This sutra can bring great benefit to all living beings and fulfill their desires, as a clear, cool pond can satisfy all those who are thirsty. It is like a fire to one who is cold, a robe to one who is naked, like a band of merchants finding a leader, a child finding its mother, someone finding a ship in which to cross the water, a sick man finding a doctor, someone in darkness finding a lamp, the poor finding riches, the people finding a ruler, a traveling merchant finding his way into the sea. It is like a torch that banishes darkness. Such is this Lotus Sutra. It can cause living beings to cast off all distress, all sickness and pain. It can unloose all the bonds of birth and death. And that's why the vow is so important. So then let's go over to the transmission. Yeah, good. 2 more. The transmission of Buddhist teachings. I'm a little bit late, but I don't care. We won't see each other for a while anyhow, after this and this. The transmission of Buddhist teachings on page 88. The transmission of Buddhist teachings since the very beginning has been a matter of person-to-person learning. That's why we do this around the table, right? Especially in the earliest days before the teachings were written down. Thus, there has always been an emphasis on the relationship of teachers and their disciples. The way that his relationship meant, so actually you can tell whether somebody's a correct teacher by saying, who is your mentor? If they can't really give you the people that help them get to where they are, they're bullshit artists, frankly speaking. The way that this relationship manifests, however, differs greatly among the various forms of Buddhism. Often the teacher was looked upon as the possessor of a supernatural power or a secret endowment of Buddhist teachings. unattainable by practice and study alone. In the Lotus Sutra, however, the relationship is one of equality, as I've said so many times. It's not hierarchical, it's totally horizontal. Equality of teacher and student, as clarified in such statements as, Shari, future, you should know that at the start I took a vow hoping to make all persons equal to me without any distinction between us, and what I long ago hoped for has now been fulfilled. And at all times, for all things, I preach the law equally, as I would for a single person, that same way do I for numerous persons. In Nichiren Daishonen's time, the heritage of a Buddhist school's doctrines was most often something transmitted through ceremony and ritual, as it still is in Nichiren Shoshu, as if it were a supernatural essence rather than a philosophy for living. Nichiren wrote the heritage of the ultimate law of life to overturn this misconception and to clarify that in his teachings, as with the Lotus Sutra, there was no secret doctrine, no mystical transmission, and that the teacher and the student were one. This point is made particularly clear when he states Shakyamuni Buddha, who attained enlightenment countless kalpas ago, the Lotus Sutra that leads all people to Buddhahood, and we ordinary human beings are in no way different or separate from one another, the thing that's at the beginning of every one of the chapters of this whole writing. Okay, everybody's with me? Okay, now the ninth consciousness. All right. The early Buddhist philosophy of India postulated 6 kinds of discernment, also known as consciousnesses. Later, Indian scholars such as Vasubandhu and Asanga, 5th century pioneers of Mahayana Buddhist thought, recognized a 7th and an 8th level of consciousness, Vijnana or discernment. Based on their insights, the 6th century Buddhist translator and scholar Paramatha postulated a 9th level of consciousness, and the idea of 9 consciousnesses came to be adopted by various Chinese Buddhist schools, including the Tiantai school. The first 5 of the 9 consciousnesses correspond to the 5 empirical senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. Right? Those are all things that you discern from, right? The 6th, mind consciousness, is formed from the correlation of sensory information to create an understanding of the physical environment. The 7th, mano consciousness, is an inner-directed awareness. It is through the 7th consciousness that understanding of and attachment to the concept of self derive. Okay? Because that's when your brain, you think me. Everything is me. Right? The 8th consciousness, aleya, is a consciousness that stores past causes from this life and previous lives. In Chinese, it was rendered as storehouse consciousness. The 9th is, okay, so that's where your karma would reside, okay? The 9th is the amala consciousness, which is free from any karmic defilement. Now, what would that correlate to before I go any further? Well, let me read it to the rest of the way, but actually, can you discern where they're going with this? Why do you need the 9th?
It is the original state.
Yes, sir! Ding, 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 ding. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, baby. Pure and simple. Okay? Good job. The 9th is the Amala consciousness, which is free from any karmic defilement. According to Nichiren Daishonin, the body is the palace of the 9th consciousness, the unchanging reality that reigns over all of life's functions. In Nichiren's view, there is no fundamental distinction between the physical reality of life and its true nature as the essential law of the universe, Myoho Renge Kyo. He also states the words of a wise man of old also teach that you should base your mind on the 9th consciousness, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, and carry out your practice on the 6 consciousnesses, the realm of life that we live in the 9 worlds. Okay? He says, in other words, our Buddhist practice involves tapping into our 9th consciousness, our original state, our innate Buddha nature, as it says here, and allowing its wisdom and life force to illuminate all levels of consciousness. We then engage our 9 consciousnesses, our senses and thoughts, thus illuminated, as we take action in the real world for our own happiness and that of others. And Mr. Lee, that's the whole deal about Nichiren Buddhism and the 8 winds. It was all kind of already all spoken right there. Okay, but I'll get into it specifically at another time. Tonight I've gone way over again. Thank you for indulgence, and I missed the last several weeks, and I look forward to next Tuesday. You guys can make it. We squeeze one more in before we have our next long trip.
Next Tuesday? We talk later.
We'll talk later. Hopefully we'll see you next week. Thank
Yeah.
you, bye.
Bye.